So welcome to today's AZTurboCourt Administrator Training. My name is Stephen Kimmelman with Intrasys. We are the makers of AZTurboCourt. And in today's Administrator Training, I'm going to be walking you through and describing the 3 different administrator roles and what's possible with them with AZTurboCourt. And so with that, let's just go ahead and jump right in and take a look at the software. All right, so what we're looking at right now is the AZTurboCourt Filer Portal. Now, this is a testing and training environment, as you can see from the red warning note here, but this looks very similar to what you'll encounter when you go to TurboCourt in production. And so if you just go to turbocourt.com, it will bring you here, or to the production version of what we're seeing here today. All right, so first and foremost, in order for your firm to be able to work with AZTurboCourt, your firm needs to have an AZTurboCourt account. And then once that's set up, you can add users to the firm's AZTurboCourt account. So you don't want your individual attorneys to create completely separate AZTurboCourt accounts. So just the one firm account, and then add users to that one account. And so I'm just going to quickly walk you through that, and then we'll take a look at managing your firm and managing your users and the other administrative functions. All right, so let's just assume this is the very first time I'm going to be using AZTurboCourt, and so I need to set up an account. And so I see here the sign up button, and I can just click on that and provide the required information. You'll see fields with an asterisk. Those are required, right? Standard functionality these days. And then provide your password. You'll notice the security question and corresponding answer do not have asterisks. Those are optional, so I could skip that right now, and I can add it to my profile later. I'm going to go ahead and do that now because it's recommended. It will allow you to automatically recover your password if for any reason you forget it. So just select from one of the security questions available, and then provide some sort of a corresponding answer, and then simply click sign up. And then you're asked what type of an account are you registering, and for today's training purposes, I'll select attorney law firm. Click continue, and because I selected law firm, there's one additional field required, which is our law firm name. Optionally, I could provide these other fields, but there's no asterisk there, so I'll go ahead and skip those for now. And then I'll click sign up, and that's it. So there's no cost for that, and as you can see, you can do it 60, 90 seconds, something like that. Very, very fast. And so we now have, our law firm now has an AZTurboCourt account, and I am its first user. Okay? So at any time I want to look at or manage or edit my profile, there's a couple different ways I can do that. Here at the very top, there's a profile button. I can click on that to edit my profile. Also on the left-hand side, there's a user menu, and you'll see a link called My Profile that will take me there as well. And so I'll go ahead and click on that My Profile link. And so what I can see is we've been registered as an attorney/law firm, and these are my access levels. So let me speak about that. Everybody that's registered with AZTurboCourt is given the access level of a user, which means that I can prepare and submit filings and manage my own profile. Now, I may or may not be somebody who does submit filings, but nevertheless, everybody is given this access level. And then we've got these 3 different administrator levels, and I'll be covering each of those in detail during this training. Because I was the person who actually created our firm's account, then by default, I'm given all 3 administrator roles. and I will always have those 3 administrator roles. Now, that doesn't mean that I'm obligated to fulfill those roles. It just means that I will always be in those 3 roles because I was our firm's original user. However, you'll see in just a bit that you can assign any number of people to these administrator roles. So you can have multiple company administrators, multiple filing administrators, etc. Okay. So of course I can edit my profile here. I see the contact phone number now that I'm at my profile is required. So let me just go ahead and put something in there. And if I'm an attorney and I do plan to prepare and submit filings through AZTurboCourt, then I'm going to want to put in my state bar number and then the corresponding state. And the reason for that, to have this in my profile, is because often AZTurboCourt will automatically generate forms and documents for you that are going to be filed with the court. And the header of those forms will be pre-populated, and it needs to have your state bar number. And so rather than having to enter it each time you're creating a filing, if you have it here in your profile, we'll just grab it from there and automatically populate those documents that we create for you. Okay? And then here again is my security question and answer, so I can edit it, remove it, whatever I need to do. And again, I do recommend using this because it will, as I said, allow you to automatically recover your password if you ever happen to forget it. If you do make any changes, such as the phone number I just added, then click Update here at the very bottom. And there you go. Now I'm going to return to my profile because I want to show you a couple of other things. So I'll click on that My Profile link in the menu again. If you ever want to change your password, simply come here where it says Request New Password, click on that arrow, and you'll be informed that we sent you an email. So just open up that email, click on the link, and it'll allow you to easily and securely update your password. Okay. One other thing I want to show you in your profile, so I'm going to click on the profile button this time. Takes me to the same place, however, and that is you'll see that there are 2 other tabs, an Email Preferences tab and an SMS Text Notifications tab. I will come back to those when we start adding users, okay? But it applies to you as well, but I'll just skip that for the moment, okay? So that's your profile, and this is true of all of your users. They'll have the same type of access and ability. Okay, so because I created our firm's account, as I mentioned, I'm in all 3 administrator roles. And so I'm going to start off by showing you the company administrator functionality. All right. So one of the things you will notice is that in my user menu, I also have a My Organization link. And when I click on that, it shows me that I currently only have 1 user, right? I haven't added any other users to our firm yet. But I do have the ability to do that. I can add user accounts, and I can also edit my organization's info. Okay? So to show you that functionality, I'm going to log out right now and log back in as an administrator for a much more active, not a brand new law firm, but one that has lots of users and so forth. So I can walk you through some additional functionality. So I'm just going to go ahead and click Quit here, start a new session. And instead, I'm going to log in as somebody else. Oh, and by the way, if you ever want to connect your login to your social media account logins for a faster login, now we're not exchanging information back and forth between your AZTurboCourt account and your social media account. You could click this Read More link to learn more about that. We're simply connecting the logins so that you don't have to type in your email address and password every time. Right, so if I were to click Continue with LinkedIn, provide my email address, my password, click Sign In, and that's it. So I'm not actually going to do that right now, but that's all that I would need to do. And so from that point forward, every time I'm logging into AZTurboCourt, I just click this button rather than entering this information that I'm going to enter right now to log in. So it just saves me some time. So I'm logging in as somebody named Attorney Donna. She happens to have all of these administrator roles. She also happens to be a filer. That is to say, she's an attorney as well. And so what you will notice is that when she's logged in, her home screen here has some additional things that we didn't see when I was logged in as a brand new user. Okay, so let me just briefly explain this to you, because even though if you're only in an administrator role and you're not filing yourself, you won't see these things, but your filers will. So it'll be helpful for you to understand what it is they're seeing here, how it all works, in case they ever have questions about it. Okay, so as they are creating filings, or what we call form sets, but those terms are synonymous. They're one and the same thing. So a form set and a filing, at least in the world of AZTurboCourt, is the same thing. As they're creating their filings, their form sets, we will show them the 5 most recent ones they've been working on. Okay, so basically what's current. And so you can see each one is given a unique form set number. There may be an existing case number already or not. There may be some sort of, well, typically will be a submission name somehow automatically created. It'll show the case type, the status, and I'll talk more about statuses later. And so if I, as the person who is creating these filings, if I want to look at or work on any of these filings, I could simply click on that form set number and it'll take me right into that filing and I can see what's going on, or I can continue working on it, or many other things that I can do there. Okay. Now, I can, of course, access all of my filings, not just my 5 most recent, but we show the 5 most recent as soon as you log in, just to make it helpful for you to immediately go to what's you're most currently working on. Okay. The other thing you'll see here are these indicators, and I'll actually come back to that in just a little bit. Okay. But these are the types of things that once you're filing through AZTurboCourt, you're going to be encountering. And again, if you're simply one of the administrators and you're not actually submitting filings, then this is always going to be blank and empty for you. Okay. So Attorney Donna, the person who I just logged in as, is a company administrator. I think she's actually got all 3 roles. And so I'm going to click on My Organization again here in the user menu. And so you can see we have 38 user accounts within this law firm. So here's our law firm information, and here are our 38 users. And Attorney Donna is one of them. Yeah, she's got all the administrator access as well. Okay. So what can the company administrator do? Well, you can edit your organization information. So if I click on the Edit Organization Info button, it brings me to this screen. Again, certain fields are required, others are optional. Okay. So I can obviously update this whenever I need to. And then I want to bring your attention to the courtesy notifications area. So let me explain about the automated messaging that happens when filers electronically submit their filings to the various courts through AZTurboCourt. So let's pretend I'm an attorney and I'm submitting filings to the court. As soon as I successfully do that, I will start to automatically receive notifications as to the status of my filing. So for example, the very first notification I'll receive will say something like, thank you for submitting your documents to the Pima Superior Court. You'll be notified once we process them, something like that, which is helpful because it basically tells you that the court was able to successfully receive and consume your filing, right? If you submitted that filing at, 2 a.m. on a Sunday morning and nobody's there at the court, you may be wondering if they, in fact, actually received it and everything is good to go. So by receiving that message, the attorney is informed that, yes, everything, they've got it and their clerk can start working on it. Later on in the process, they'll receive another notification, maybe something like your form set number 23456 has been accepted, and here's your new case number, if, for example, it was a case initiation filing. Okay, so there'll be these various status updates or notifications that they receive, and those are always available to them anytime they're logged into AZTurboCourt. So, for example, you'll see in the user menu this messages link, and that's going to allow them to go and see these incoming messages about all of their filings. The status of their filings. Now, they also have the ability to request those notifications by email or by text, which is what those other two tabs were in the profile. And again, I'll come back to that a little bit later. Okay, but I just wanted to inform you that the filers themselves have all these different ways of being notified as to the status of their filing until it is hopefully accepted. Okay, so back to the role of the company administrator, which is what I am right now. And because of that, I can edit our organization, our firm's AZTurboCourt information. And so here we have the courtesy notifications area. And there are two different inboxes. The first one is the general notifications inbox. And so if I were to put an email address here, then I will receive an email notification as to the status of every single filing that comes that is made by people within our firm through AZTurboCourt. So whereas the attorney is only getting notified about their own filings, I, as the company administrator, can establish some sort of really a global inbox to receive everybody's notifications so that you have an oversight role, okay? And so if you have, for example, somebody in that role of oversight, some sort of clerk that is keeping track of everything that's being filed with the firm or through the firm, this would allow it to go to whoever's inbox you want, or you can set up a generic inbox, you know, TurboCourt filings at our law firm, right? Something like that, whatever you want to set up, okay? This is optional, so you can see there's no asterisk. And so if you want to click on this information icon next to it, it explains it in more detail, but essentially covers what I just said. Yeah, so like if you have somebody in a central docketing function, you could use that email address, okay? It's also important to note that these email notifications are just that. They're notifications, they're status updates. They do not include copies of documents or forms or anything like that, okay? So that's the general notifications inbox. And again, everybody who files in your firm through AZTurboCourt, they get their own notifications, but this one centralized inbox gets everybody's notifications. So somebody can have an oversight of the entire firm's AZTurboCourt filings. Then you have another inbox called the Received e-Service inbox. As more and more attorneys in Arizona are using AZTurboCourt and starting to use e-Service because they see how convenient it is to use e-Service, then your attorneys may get e-served as opposed to traditional paper service. So rather than them receiving an envelope with a number of documents that opposing counsel filed on the case, they'll simply get an email. And the email will have a link in it, and when the attorney clicks on that link, it will take them to all the documents that opposing counsel just filed with the court. Hence, they've been e-served. And once again, you can have somebody in a central docketing or oversight role that also receives those incoming e-service notifications, announcements that, hey, you've been e-served on case number so-and-so, and it would take them to those documents. Now, you can use the exact same email address for both of these functions if you want, or you can have it be, you know, something else. Right? So, however you might want to do that. Okay. And I'm just going to go ahead and leave those blank for now, and I'm going to click Save. So that's Edit Organization Info. Then there are your users. Now you saw when I logged in as that brand new user, when I first created a new law firm, I was the only user, right? In this situation, I've logged in as somebody where there's already 38 users in this firm. And so first, let me show you how to add a new user, and then I'll show you how to manage the existing users. So here at the top, there's an Add User Account button. I click on that, and once again, I'm simply going to provide the required information for this new user. They may or may not be an attorney. I may or may not know their bar number. I'm going to leave it blank for now. Here, I can give them any or all of the administrator access roles. I'll come back to that in just a moment. And I'm also going to want to set up a password for them. And then retype it. All right, so if I were to click Add right now, then what's going to happen is that the system is going to automatically send them an email. And that email will include a link that will bring them here to TurboCourt, AZTurboCourt. And it will have their username, which is essentially going to be their email address at this point. The password that I initially set up for them is not included in that same email for security purposes, simply to keep it separate. And so you'll want to provide them this password separately, however you choose to do that. Okay. All right, so now let's take a look at the administrator roles. In a moment, I'll click on this information icon, and it'll describe each of them. But right now, excuse me, I've been showing you the functionality of the company administrator, right? All right, so let's click on this information icon. And so let's first actually look at the company administrator. So I can add users, as you saw. I can reassign them to be inactive. I can edit their profiles, change their passwords, and I can also edit our organization's profile, as you just saw, including setting up those global notification inboxes, right? Okay, then we have the filing administrator. The filing administrator can access and view all of the filings created by any of the users within our law firm. So whereas if I am an attorney or a paralegal and I'm creating and submitting filings, I can see my filings, but I can't see the attorney down the hall from me. I can't see their filings, right? The filing administrator can. They've got global access to everybody's filings throughout our firm, and I'll show you that functionality in detail in just a little bit. And then the financial administrator, in a similar vein, has that sort of global access to the financial data across the entire firm in terms of fees that are being paid on for which clients, for which cases, and so forth. So the financial administrator has this global view of any financial information pertaining to the filings that are being created and submitted via AZTurboCourt. The financial administrator can also, if you want to use this functionality, it's super helpful if it's applicable to you. You can pre-register payment methods and then assign different users within your firm to be able to use them to pay the various court fees and so forth for their AZTurboCourt filings. So you can set up credit cards in advance or checking or savings accounts in advance, whatever that is, and then assign users to be able to use those credit cards, for example. And again, I'll be showing you that functionality as well. So those are your three administrator roles. Go ahead and close that. And for now, this person, Zelig, I'm not going to make him any of those administrators. He's just going to be a user. Okay? And so I'm going to just simply click Add. And let's see, I have way too many Zeligs. Multiple pages, as you see here at the very bottom, so I'll simply click Next. And there's our brand new Zelig test 041719. Okay? All right, so let's take a look at an existing user and how you can update their information. All right, so here we've got Alan test 0919. And I got to the screen again simply by clicking on the My Organization link in my user menu. And so now I need to do something with this particular person. So I click on his name here, and I've got access to his profile. Okay. So let's just say, for the sake of argument, that Alan forgot his login information, forgot his password, and he didn't use, the security name and security question and answer to automatically recover it himself. So he's kind of out of luck. Or maybe he did and he forgot what his answer was. But in any event, he's locked out, right? He just can't log back in again. So as the administrator, you can come here, go to his profile, and you can simply change the password for him and then give him his new password. Okay, so same thing as you saw earlier. Just click on this arrow and it'll change the password for him. Okay, once he gets his new password, he can log in and then he can update it and change it again to whatever he wants it to be. Right? Here also is where you can assign or remove administrator access levels from this user. And as you can see, you can select one or any combination of these administrator roles, and it is unlimited in terms of how many people in your firm can be in these administrator roles. Okay. You can also change his status from active to inactive, and that is typically when, for example, he's going to be leaving the firm. Okay. So anytime you make an existing user inactive, it means that they are no longer going to be able to log into AZTurboCourt and their particular account with your firm, right? So that's it. They're out in terms of having access. It doesn't mean, however, that his filings, of course, and everything he's done are gone. They're all in the system. And that's where the filing administrator can come in and actually view anything that he's done up until that point. And the financial administrator can also come in and see any of the financial data pertaining to his filings that he created prior to his leaving the firm. Okay, so you simply make him inactive and click update, and now he's inactive. Okay, so the filing administrator and the financial administrator can still access all of his filings and that data, but he himself can no longer log in to this account. Now, let's say he comes back to your firm 6 months later. Well, rather than setting up an entirely new account for him, you can simply reactivate him by clicking on his name and making him active again, and that's going to give him immediate access to all of his previous cases and filings and so forth. Okay? All right, now you have probably noticed that there's also information about assigned payment accounts off on the right here. I'm going to hold off on showing that to you. That's actually the realm of the financial administrator. And this has to do with those saved payment accounts, a pre-registered credit card or a bank account for using for your AZTurboCourt filings. But we will come back to that. Okay. So, as that company administrator, I can edit our organization's info. I can add new users. I can deactivate existing users. I can update their information for them if need be. And there you go. So that's your company administrator. Now, I want to log in as that new user I just created, Zelig, and show you what it's going to be like for anybody who you, as a company administrator, add to your law firm, so that you can see what they're going to experience. Okay? So let me just quit there. Start a new session. And I think that's the right login for Zelig. Yeah, great. Okay, so this is Zelig, who I just added to our law firm. And you'll notice that when I log in as Zelig, there are, of course, no current filings or messages or anything like that, because I haven't created any filings yet. Okay, and so when your users first log in, they're going to first want to go to their profile to update it and manage it. And so once again, I'll click on that profile button. And here I am, I'm Zelig, and my access level is simply user. Okay? And here is where I can set up my security question and answer, change my password, from the one that you originally gave me, do whatever I need to do, put in my state bar number and so forth. Okay? And now is when I want to show you these two other tabs, the email preferences tab and the text notifications tab. So these, again, pertain to the automated status updates that will be coming to me as a filer once I electronically submit a filing to the courts. So again, when I submit a filing, I'm going to be getting automated messages that are essentially, and I'm using some terms synonymously again, so messages, notifications, status updates, they're all one and the same thing. And so once I start receiving them, I can click on simply this messages link in my user menu and see any of these incoming messages on any of my filings. That would be one way. And that's sufficient. I could just log in and check the status that way. But if I do want to receive email notification as well, then I would go to the email preferences tab, and I see that I have three choices here. I can say, yes, I do want to receive email, or no, I don't. So if I were to say no, then it means, okay, I'll just log into the website to AZTurboCourt regularly and check the status of my filings. And that's perfectly fine. That's okay. If you're like me, you're probably not overly excited about getting more email in your inbox, right? So you may say, well, yeah, please don't send me any extra emails. I'll just log in. And like I said, that's fine. But if you do decide you want to receive email notification, you've got two choices here. The distinction is simply how much information is in the body of that email. Okay? I want to bring your attention to these checkboxes here, because these are all of the possible scenarios where an email notification might be sent to you. Now, I say might be sent to the filer because it really depends on the case type they're filing. It depends on the jurisdiction they're filing into, because not every single jurisdiction will trigger emails at each of these scenarios. But these are all of the possible situations where an additional email might be sent. And there are two that really jump out at me if I'm a filer. And that is if for some reason an error occurred during the filing of my submission and it didn't successfully go through to the court, or if for some reason the filing was rejected by the court. Now that doesn't happen very often when you're filing through AZTurboCourt, because there's so many safeguards that are already built into the system. But there's no way that we can, of course, guarantee that the court won't find some reason to reject your filing, so it certainly is possible. So just think about this scenario. It's the end of the day on Friday. I get my filing in, I submit it. That's it. I'm done for the day, done for the weekend. I shut down my computer. I go home. I go have a good time. Well, if for some reason that filing didn't actually go through, and I don't find out until sometime on Monday, that could be a real problem for me, right? And if I don't receive an email notification about it, then it may in fact be that until I log into TurboCourt on Monday, I wouldn't know that, right? So in a situation like that, yeah, I actually do want to be immediately notified so that I could jump on that situation and tend to it, right? Or same thing, if a filing gets rejected, I may need to know about that immediately, right? So just something to think about. If you're somebody like me who says, yeah, I'm really good about this, I'll just log in all the time, you may still want to consider, okay, in a couple of situations, yeah, go ahead and send me those emails. Just something to think about. At any point in time, if you make changes, just click Update. Okay? I'm going to return to my profile to show you now that SMS text notifications tab. This is a new functionality that was just very recently added to AZTurboCourt, and this is if you want to receive those notifications by text message. If you do, you'll provide your mobile number, your text number. We will, you probably have done this in other things, but we will send a code to your cell phone. Get the code from the cell phone, and a new field will appear here for you to enter the code that we send you to validate and verify that that is your cell phone. And then once you verify the code, click Update, and you're good to go. And at that point, you'll receive text notifications. And just as with the Email Preferences tab, where you may have started off saying, yes, I want email, you can always change that to say, okay, I really do log in all the time. I don't need those email notifications, right? You can do the same thing with the text notifications. If you previously set up your cell phone to receive those text messages and now you've decided you don't need that anymore or want that anymore, you can just disconnect that. Come back to this tab and update it and remove your cell phone, okay? So that's Zelig, our new user. All right, so you've seen what a new user experience is and what they'll want to do with their profile. You've seen the company administrator and their functionality, And so now I want to show you the other two administrator roles, the filing administrator and then the financial administrator. So I'm going to log out now as Zelig, and I'm going to log in as somebody who is a filing administrator in this law firm. So this is going to be Mark Hope. Okay, Mark Hope is a filing administrator at our law firm. Notice that he doesn't have any filings or messages because he actually doesn't submit filings through AZTurboCourt. He does other things at our law firm, but that's not one of the things he does. And he is given the role, however, of filing administrator. And so let's look at that functionality. So again, the filing administrator can view any or all of the filings created by any of the folks within our law firm through AZTurboCourt. Okay? There's a couple different ways he can access the search screen that gives him access to all of those filings. So here on his homepage, when he logs in, there's always this list all link, which will take you to the search screen. I'll show you that in a moment. Also, in the user menu, there's a link called My Forms. And so again, we use these terms synonymously. So my forms, my form sets, my filings, they're all one and the same thing. Okay? So if I click on my forms, I get a search screen that's going to allow me to access any and all filings across the entire firm. Now I want to contrast this to if I'm simply a user and not the filing administrator. I'll still have this search screen, but it's only going to give me access to my filings. But notice that the filing administrator can view everybody's filings or individual people within our firm that are registered for AZTurboCourt with our firm. Right? So there's our brand new user, Zelig Test, and today's date. Right? So if I want to just look at Zelig's filings, I can do that. Or I can look at everybody's filings because I'm the filing administrator. Okay? By default, we'll automatically put in a date that's 30 days back from today's date. So you're automatically going to be looking at 30 days worth of filings for the entire firm. Okay? So each one of these rows represents a unique filing, a unique what we call a form set. Okay? They may be on the same case, they could be on different cases, they could be filed by different people. Okay? So let me actually show you a list that's a little more interesting than just 5 filings. I can use these fields in really just about in any way I need to search for the filings across our firm. And so right now I'm just looking at filings for this particular time frame. All right, so now I'm looking at 15 filings. Right? So again, each one of these rows is a unique filing. By default, this particular list is sorted based on the form set number. Every single filing is given a unique form set number. And so the most recent form set number will be at the top and working your way down. But you can click on any of these headings, column headings, and reorganize, resort your list. So for example, you might want to sort it based on the case number and group filings based on case number, or maybe based on who actually created the filing, for example. Okay? And really any of these columns you could do that with. And as the filing administrator, if I want to look at any of these filings and see what's going on with it, I can simply click on that form set number and actually view the filing. In fact, I'll show you that in just a moment. Okay? So let's, again, take a look at some functionality here in terms of search capabilities and how a filing administrator might make use of this, because there's a lot of possibilities here. So right now I'm looking at 15 filings for this particular time frame, but that's for everybody in our firm. What if I only wanted to see filings for that time frame that were done by Donna? So I'll click list and I can see, okay, so 10 of those filings were Donna's for that time frame. Let me add another criteria. I can put in the jurisdiction. By the way, it's not case sensitive. So did she do any PIMA filings, for example? Okay, yeah, 6 of those filings were PIMA filings, right? So you can drill down and use these fields in any combination you'd like, okay? Now, I want to talk to you about the keyword matter number field, because that is a very useful field for your AZTurboCourt filings. This is a field that it's optional as to whether or not your filers want to use it. It's not required by the system or by the courts. And in fact, it has nothing to do with the courts per se at all. It's really an internal field that you can use any way you'd like for tracking purposes. So if you use a client ID system, right, then every time I'm creating filings for a particular client, I'll assign that client ID to the keyword matter number field for that particular filing. That's going to allow me to search for all of the filings I've done on behalf of that client over whatever period of time I'm looking for, right? Or maybe you use some sort of a case ID system as a way of identifying and naming cases. And if that's the situation, then I would apply that case ID schema name to my filings. And so same thing, I could search for all the filings related to that particular case, okay? If your attorneys are using the keyword matter number, then you, as the filing administrator, can also use it. So let's just say, for the sake of discussion, that our firm does in fact use a client ID system. And all of our attorneys, when they create and submit their AZTurboCourt filings, apply the corresponding client ID to those filings. Okay, great. So that means I can go and as a filing administrator and find everything we've done on behalf of that particular client. So let's just say that we do that, and it's alphanumeric. You can also use special characters. I mean, pretty much just about any character you can put in this field. You can have, several words in there, whatever you're needing. But let's just say this is for our client A-23456. And I specifically want to find everything we did on their behalf in all of last year, in all of 2018. So I'm going to put in a full year now. So this full year in combination with this keyword matter number, and I want to look at everybody's filings. What did our entire firm do for that client? Oops, forgot a slash there. Great. Okay, let's see what happens. Click list. Okay, so our law firm, through AZTurboCourt, created 17 filings for that particular client during 2018, right? And the other thing you'll notice is that in the upper right-hand corner, there's a button that says Export to MS Excel. So I could export this search result to an Excel file format, which means any spreadsheet software can work with it. So obviously Excel, but Google Sheets, whatever you happen to work with, and then you can do whatever you need to. You can create sub-sorting and add up fees and all of that, right? So it's a really helpful and easy way to access basically any AZTurboCourt filing data across your entire law firm. Okay. All right. So here are some other ways you can work with this search screen. You might want to look specifically for filings based on their status. Now, in AZTurboCourt, there are many, many statuses, but most of these are not relevant to you and your filers. So let me just briefly talk about the statuses and which ones are relevant in most instances. So when your filer is first creating their AZTurboCourt filing, they go through a very simple 3-step process. And this is whether they're doing case initiation and starting a brand new case, or whether they're simply filing some additional documents into one of their existing cases. The process is the same, and it's a 3-step process. Step 1, they answer a few questions. Step 2, they attach their documents, and step 3, they electronically submit everything and then pay the fees at that time if fees are required. Okay? So answer a few questions, attach my documents, and then electronically submit everything. All right, so there are statuses that correspond with some of that process. So if I have finished answering my questions, but I have not yet submitted my filing to the court, it is called completed. So completed means I haven't yet sent it to the court, but I have answered whatever the required questions are, and AZTurboCourt knows what the required questions are for each filing scenario. Okay? Once I do electronically submit my filing to the court, then it goes from completed to delivered. Okay? Then the court has it, they process it, assuming they accept the filing, it then goes from delivered to e-filed. So those are the three most common statuses: completed, delivered, and then e-filed, in that order. Now, sometimes, particularly like if they're doing case initiation where there are additional questions being asked of them, they may not finish answering the questions in a single session. Not that it takes long, but they may just simply have gotten interrupted in the middle of doing it. And so if that happens, then the status is called incomplete. And let me just show you that here. So incomplete, right? So you've got completed, delivered, and e-filed, but it could be that they didn't finish answering their questions yet, and so it's incomplete. And in the rare situation where the court does reject it, you'll have rejected. Okay, the rest of these statuses are not relevant. So, as the filing administrator, you might be interested to find out what filings have been sent to the court, delivered, but have not yet been accepted or rejected by them, so they're still processing them. Now, you probably wouldn't have that many from that time frame, but you get the idea. Like, what have we recently sent to the court that we're still waiting for the court to finish processing? As the filing administrator, you can see that. And you could see it based on a time frame. You could put it based on a client or a case. You know, do we have any filings on that case that we're still waiting for the court to process, right? You put in the case number, search for delivered, right? Or Sarah went, she's been out sick. Does she have any outstanding filings I need to know about, right? So there's a lot of really great functionality you've got access to here. And as a filing administrator, one of the things that you're likely to do is to look for filings that have been already accepted by the court, which means their status is now e-filed. And the reason you're going to be looking for e-filed filings is because that is then going to give you access to the court's conform stamped copies, as well as the other case documents for that particular case. So let me show you how that works. Before I do, it's important for me to let you know that when your filers are preparing and submitting filings to the courts across Arizona, that depending on the jurisdiction they're filing into, there are different requirements. Sort of the courts have a sort of, think of it as just a different way of doing business, but they also have different requirements. And and there's really three different ways or three different sets of requirements across the state of Arizona. It's broken down this way. If you're filing into Maricopa, that's one set of requirements or one way of doing business. If you're filing into Pima, that's a different set. Then, if you're filing into any other county that is not Maricopa or Pima, that's a different set of requirements. So it's really three different ways of doing business. So you've got the Maricopa approach, the Pima approach, and what I call the all other counties approach. The reason I'm mentioning this to you as the filing administrator is because it also affects how and where and when you can access the conform stamp copies and other case documents. Because again, they do business differently. So let me show you accepted filings for all three of those approaches so you'll know how to do this. All right, so I'm first going to show you a filing in Pima that was accepted. Okay, so there it is. It's Pima. It's been e-filed. And I'm the filing administrator, right? I'm not the person who actually created this filing. I'm going to go ahead and click on the form set number. And it was done by Karina in our firm. And I can see a cover sheet and a certificate of compulsory arbitration were created, as well as a notice. Okay. And so, as you can see here, the Pima approach is that in addition to this view link, which we'll always show, there are new links that automatically appear for any document that PIMA happens to stamp. Now, they're not necessarily going to stamp every single document. For example, if there were supporting documents to any of these, they don't typically stamp supporting documents, just the main document. But if I were to click on, for example, the court copy link, let's see, this is the certificate. Yeah, let's give it a try. So I'm going to click on that court copy link, and I'm actually connected with PIMA's test system right now, and I'm asking them to give me your copy of your version of this document, and it should be the conformed copy. So let's just give PIMA system a moment to give us this document. Hopefully their system is up and running right now. Yeah, it looks like it is. Good. Great. So there we go. Now again, this is not a real case and all that, so, or a real filing, but if you imagine it would be, then here I've got my conformed stamped copy, and I of course can print it if I need a hard copy of it. I can just save it to my hard drive or to my network drive, but it gives me access to the conformed stamped copy. Okay? Oh, I didn't mean to do that. I clicked the wrong button. Oh well. I'm going to start up my session again. Yikes. Oh well. Give me just a moment here. Let's see here. Sure I did that right. Oh, system. Oh. Okay, good. Okay, so here we go. So there's the filing again. PIMA, it's been e-filed, that's its status, and so all of a sudden new links appear that weren't there before. So for example, if I was looking at this filing and the status was simply completed or delivered, these links would not be here. These court copy and endorsed links would not be here. And the reason why you're seeing a court copy and an endorsed link is that apparently for this particular notice, PIMA does multiple stamps, and there's different documents here associated with this notice that they've stamped. But whatever appears here is whatever PIMA has done to these documents. And again, I can click on these links and access them. Okay, so that's the PIMA approach. From this screen, I don't have to go back to my home screen to access that search screen. I can just click List My Forms right here at the top. You'll see that button, and it brings me right back to that same search screen. So now I'm going to show you a Maricopa filing. Okay, there we go. We're in Maricopa. It's been e-filed. And so notice there's just the view link, right? We don't have any additional links like court copy. Instead, the Maricopa approach is that a new section is added here. Once the status has been e-filed, this new section appears called Stamped Documents. And if I were to click on the view link for anything that's under Stamped Documents, that's where I'd access the conformed copy. And that's the Maricopa approach. Okay. Lastly, I will show you the All Other Counties approach, which again is any county that is not Maricopa or PIMA. All right, this happens to be a Santa Cruz filing. Click on that form set number. So, just the view link, no additional links here, no additional section called Stamped Documents. So, when I'm looking at a filing in the All Other Counties group and it's been e-filed, how do I access the conformed stamped copies? Well, the way you do it in this situation is you find this button here at the top called View Court Case Documents. This appears once the status of the filing has gone to e-filed. So again, if the status was simply delivered, this button would not be here. But the instant the court says they've accepted it, the status will immediately change to e-filed, and this View Court Case Documents button will immediately appear for you. It appears for the filer as well, by the way. But again, right now I'm looking at this from the perspective of the filing administrator. And if I click on View Court Case Documents, again, we're also connected to the Santa Cruz All Other Counties system, and I just ask them to give me all of the documents they have electronically on this case. Now again, these are test environments. These aren't really full cases, right? But you could imagine this would be the court's electronic docket on this case, and I could access whatever they've got in their electronic docket, not just my filings, not just my documents, opposing counsel's documents, perhaps judges' documents, whatever they've got in the electronic docket. I can click on any of these documents and access them. And of course, if they've been stamped, I'll have the stamped version here, okay? And of course, I could print those again, save them to my local or network drive, whatever I need to do. So the filing administrator has access to all of this, okay? Now, click filing details to go back, and I'm going to click list my forms to go back to my search screen. I want to show you that even though the All Other Counties group of counties accesses their conform stamped copies using that View Court Case Documents button, I want to show you that so do Pima and Maricopa. So even though Pima and Maricopa give you other ways, you know, the stamped document section or these links to immediately access the stamped copies for this particular filing, they also give you access to their electronic docket through this View Court Case Documents button, which also appears once that filing goes to status e-filed. So all of the courts through AZTurboCourt will do this. Then the question is when? When do they give you access to that? So again, that's different. If the filing is for the All Other Counties group, any of the counties other than Pima and Maricopa, they do overnight processing. So if the clerk accepted the filing, let's say at 2 p.m. in the afternoon, it's going to go through overnight processing, and the conform stamp copies should be available to the filer and you, the filing administrator, the very next day. Okay. Pima and Maricopa, they process more readily, and they do processing every hour. And so in theory, if the clerk accepts the filing at 2 o'clock and they do anything else they need to do to make that available to you, then by 3 o'clock, the conform stamp copy could be available. Now, we, AZTurboCourt, actually don't have total control over that timing. We actually make it available to you as soon as the court does. But for the courts, they have their own internal processes, and simply accepting the filing through AZTurboCourt may not be the last step in their own internal process. In other words, the clerk may have some other things they need to do before they can make it available through the electronic docket and make the conform stamp copy available. But that being said, once they are done with their processing, in Pima and Maricopa, AZTurboCourt will process every hour and give you access to those documents as they become available. And with the All Other Counties group, like I said, it's overnight processing, and it'll be the next day. Okay, so there you go. That is the filing administrator. So again, you're simply going to be accessing this search screen using these fields in whatever way you're needing to and getting a particular search result. And then you can actually go into the filings and by clicking on the form set number, or if you get a list of filings based on a client or based on a case number, for example, you can then export that to Excel. All right, so that is your filing administrator. And lastly, I now want to show you the financial administrator. So we'll go ahead and quit there, start a new session, and I'm going to log in as somebody who is a financial administrator. All right, so this is Pauline Watts. She is a financial administrator. She too is not a filer, so there are no filings here at the top of her screen. Okay, so once again, the financial administrator has overview of all of the filings, just like we saw with the filing administrator, but the financial administrator has it from the perspective of the dollar amounts and the payment information and things like that. Okay. So in a similar fashion, the financial administrator could click on the List All link or the My Forms link, which takes us to that search screen. And it looks quite similar to what we see for the filing administrator. You know what? I'm going to go to her profile. I want to make sure Yeah, financial administrator. Okay, good. Great. Actually, not great. Something's not right here. Oh, I clicked the wrong link. Forgive me. When she's looking at this from the financial perspective, it's the financial link that you want to click on. Okay, so I'm clicking on financial. Again, search screen very similar to what we saw, but now she's accessing these filings from the financial perspective. So again, she can be looking for, or he, it's not necessarily she, of course, the financial administrator can look for filings across the entire law firm, all, or a particular person's filings. Okay? And so let's start off with that first 1 month range that we did with the filing administrator. And let's just look at October 2018, search payment transactions. And so when the filing administrator searched for filings in this time frame, they had a certain number of filings. I think it was 15, but the financial administrator only has 11 search results, and that's because not all of those filings were submitted and they didn't all have fees yet. So the financial administrator is only looking at filings where there's money involved. Okay? And so once again, each of these rows represents a unique filing, a unique form set, but because I'm looking at it from the perspective of the dollar amounts, this is sorted by default based on the transaction date and time. So the most recent transaction date and time will be at the top. But again, I can, of course, sort this based on any of these column headings. And if I scroll over to the right, it will show me various payment information. Okay. It's also going to be showing me if the payment was made using one of those saved payment methods, right? So a pre-registered credit card or a bank account. So for example, this looks like Karina's newer MasterCard 1122 was used for this particular payment, right? And here's a different MasterCard that was used, and here's a Visa that was used. And then we'll come here, and here's a pretty good sized payment. Notice there's no saved payment method indicated. Well, that means that when this filer made this payment, they just manually entered in the payment method. Maybe they used their own credit card, manually entered it in, and didn't want to save it, for example. Okay? So from the financial administrator's perspective, you can see how it was paid. And if we scroll back over to the right, and you click on the transaction ID, this actually comes from the payment provider, it will give you the details. So this was a general civil filing in PIMA. There's the form set number, no case number yet, but it was assigned to keyword matter number A23456. It was the Ralph Gleason versus Anderson Corporation case, date and time of the transaction. It was paid using a Visa, ending in these 4 digits with this expiration date. And here's a breakdown of the fees. And so this is essentially a payment receipt. If I want, I can print a hard copy of this payment receipt, or I could click this same link and simply save it as a PDF so that I'll have a digital copy of the payment receipt. Okay? The filer, of course, can access this as well. It's their filing. But again, I'm the financial administrator. I, too, have access to this for anybody's filings across our entire firm. Okay? And whatever search result I get from my criteria, I also can export this to Excel and then use the functionality of spreadsheet software to, again, subgroup it, add the fees. So for example, well, I'll give you an example of that right now. Let's just say I want to, I think this will work. Try here. Everything we did for client A-23456 in 2017, let me see if I've got anything there. Okay, great. 21 filings. So some of them are the MidFirst Bank case. There's a Carrot Corp case, lots of MidFirst, Ralph Gleason cases. So when I export this to Excel, I can subsort it and put all the Ralph Gleason cases together, add up all of the fees. What did we spend on the Ralph Gleason case? What did we spend on the MidFirst Bank case, right? And then grand total, et cetera, right? So it's just great. I mean, all of this information is readily available to you in any way you're needing to access it. And once again, you can even do it for a particular person, right? Or a specific case number. So not just for that client, but on a specific case. Okay. The other thing you could do is that if you are pre-registering credit cards and allowing people to use them, you might want to search for, everything you put on that Visa Saved credit card or whatever it was called. I think that's what it was called. I'm not seeing it here, but anyway. On whatever you nicknamed that payment method, and change the date range and say, hey, how much have we spent on that credit card in the last month or in the last 3 months or whatever that is, and who's using it, right? Because you'll get a report that's going to show you who the filer was, because this always includes who it was created by, right? So any financial data pertaining to fees for your AZTurboCourt filings is accessible to the filing administrator, and then you can either export it to Excel file format or just access it directly from the search result. Okay, so that's one of the things that the financial administrator can do. Great functionality there. The other thing that you can do, if you scroll over to the right and look in the upper right-hand corner, you can ask, as the financial administrator, you can ask AZTurboCourt to automatically send you payment reports on a regular basis by email. And if that's helpful to you, simply click on this Preferences for Reports button, and you'll see that you have a couple different options here. You can request payment reports for all of the filings across your entire organization, right? I need to see the payment information on everybody's filings. And you can request that these payment reports be emailed to you weekly, monthly, or bi-monthly, which is essentially twice a month. Okay? And you can actually select multiple options. I want them weekly and monthly. That's fine. Now, as a financial administrator, if you also happen to be a filer, if you're an attorney, for example, and you have your own filings as well, you can also have the payment report sent just for your own filings. Now, your own filings are always included in the organization's filings as well, okay? But this would allow you to say, okay, for my own filings that I myself am submitting, I want to get a monthly report. But for the organization, our entire firm, I want to see the weekly report. And then whatever you select there, you can choose your default sort order. Again, the report's going to come to you as an Excel file format, and you can choose your default sort order. And then once you click Save, it'll just automatically start sending that to you. Okay? And you don't have to request reports of any of these, by the way. It's optional. All right, I'm just going to say I want, actually I'm going to go here. I'm going to say I want monthly reports for all of the filings in our organization. I'll click Save, and then from this moment on, AZTurboCourt will start sending me those, emailing those to me. And what that's going to look like is something like this. You'll get an email, and it'll have, it'll say something like weekly payment report or monthly, whatever you requested. If you said weekly, it'll show you the date range of that week. It'll show you the total dollar amount that were paid in fees through AZTurboCourt for your entire organization. And then that report is attached as Excel file format. Or again, if you said a monthly report, date range for your month, whatever that dollar amount is, etc. Okay? Now, your individual filers, attorneys, paralegals, legal assistants, whoever's submitting filings, they also can request these financial reports, these payment reports. But of course, they'll only get it for their own filings, right? Not for the entire organization. Okay? So there you go. That's payment reports. Okay. A couple of other things to show you about the financial administrator, and then we will wrap. So I've been talking about the possibility of using saved payment methods, pre-registered payment methods that you can then give access to those payment methods to the folks within your firm so that they can use that to pay the various court fees and AZTurboCourt fees, whatever there happens to be. So let me walk you through that functionality, because that's also very helpful. As the financial administrator, in the user menu, you will see something called Save Payment Methods. Now, as a filer, I also have that, but they're only Save Payment Methods just for myself. Like if I'm an attorney and I'm just a user, I'm not a financial administrator, I also could have just pre-registered my own credit card or bank account, so I don't have to keep typing it in manually every single time I do a filing. So I have my own Save Payment Methods. As the financial administrator, however, I'm seeing the Save Payment Methods across the entire organization, or I should say I can set up Save Payment Methods and then give people access to them. Okay, so I'm going to click on that link right now, Save Payment Methods. You can see here I already have lots and lots. Again, for testing and training purposes, it's a bit much. You probably won't have this many. Let me just walk you through how this all works. You'll notice here at the top it says click here to register a new credit card or bank account for Arizona court filings. Arizona, with AZTurboCourt, Arizona uses a third-party payment provider to do its payment processing, and that company is called AZTurboCourt. And so when I click here, it brings me to AZTurboCourt. Now, we are also connected with their testing environment, so this is live right now. If I wanted to register a credit card, I would simply indicate the credit card type. These are the choices that I'm given by AZTurboCourt: the credit card number, the security code if there is one, the expiration date. And then for the card description, I would put in the name, like what we call the nickname, the save payment or the payment account nickname. I would put that in here because then you'll see it'll transfer over to AZTurboCourt. And you don't want to put in, like you saw, like in some of our save payment methods, we had like the full credit card number or the expiration date. You don't actually want to put that in the nickname. We do that for tracking purposes, okay? But you want to keep it generic so that people don't actually know anything about your credit card or your bank account, right? So you'd fill out this information, and then you'd fill out the information, the billing address, right? The credit card is either going to be under an organization's name, like your firm's name, or it might be like under your name, for example, even though it's considered, perhaps a card associated with your law firm. So in any event, you would either indicate that it's an organization name or a person's first and last name, and then the corresponding billing address information. Once you've filled out that, you simply click Submit. AZTurboCourt will take a look at that and make sure it is a valid and current payment method. If it is not, it will leave you here on the screen, show you some sort of a red message that something didn't work, and you'll need to tend to that. But assuming that it does go through, then you will just automatically be returned to AZTurboCourt, where you will now have that payment method here in your system. And again, whatever you used as the name, it'll show up here as your payment account nickname. Okay. At that point, you can assign people to use that particular payment method. And there are a couple of different ways that you can do that. Let me see if I've got any here that have 0 users. No, they all have some users. Okay. Let's pretend that, let's see here. Now I'm just going to go with this one. Okay, so let's pretend that I just created this save payment method. And again, you wouldn't want to actually put the number in there. You'd call it, the Superior Court MasterCard, or however you want to call it. All right. And so now, to decide who within your firm you want to give access to this particular payment method, you come over here to where it says Add Remove Users. Currently, there are none assigned to it. You click Assign to Authorized Users, and it will show you all of your active users. Now, we have many more people. Remember, we had 38 in this particular law firm, but these are the only active users within our law firm. access to. Click Assign Selected. There they are. I'll just click Go to Save Payment Methods. And now there are 3 users who've been granted access to use that particular payment method, which means when they're creating their filings and they're ready to submit the filing to the court and they have to make a payment, it brings them to AZTurboCourt. And rather than them having to provide their own bank account or credit card information, they will have a list of saved payment methods. When they click on that list, they'll see whatever you named this particular payment method, they'll see it in their list, and they can simply use it for their filings. Okay? And you saw that if you want to remove people from using a particular payment method, once again, click Add Remove Users, and simply click the X next to their name, and they will no longer have access to that particular payment method. So if she goes back and goes to a filing this afternoon, goes to AZTurboCourt, this particular payment method will no longer be available to her. Okay? So this is showing you all of the different active payment methods, how many users, and then again, Add Remove Users is one of the ways you can manage who has access to these. Now, you may need to manage the save payment method that you've created. So, for example, here's one. It looks like it's a credit card, a Visa. It's good through 11/19. I see here. I'm going to go ahead and click on it, and I can change the name of this anytime I want. It does not disturb the underlying payment information. It won't screw up AZTurboCourt being able to process it, and it will not screw up your payment reports. So let me explain. This is something you may be familiar with already, but I want to explain how it works in terms of how AZTurboCourt coordinates with AZTurboCourt. AZTurboCourt does not store this payment information. It is securely stored on AZTurboCourt's server. So, for example, if you are registering some sort of like a corporate checking account, right? We don't know your bank account number. We don't know your routing number. We don't know your credit card number. You know, we get the last 4 digits and the expiration date, but we don't get the rest of it, right? AZTurboCourt has all that. When AZTurboCourt says this is a valid payment method, what they pass to AZTurboCourt is some sort of a key code, which is completely meaningless to us. But they know what bank account or what credit card it's associated with. You then give that key code a nickname, right? You call it whatever you want. So when I rename this nickname, if I change it to my newest Visa, AZTurboCourt doesn't care because they know the underlying key code it's associated with, and they can pull up the credit card from there. And AZTurboCourt doesn't care that you've renamed it because we also know the underlying key code, and we use that for pulling up all of those payment reports. So you can rename it anytime you want. It will not screw up your payment reports. We know when this credit card was used on all of the past filings, on all the new filings with the new name, and they'll all be included because we know the underlying code for this particular payment method. Okay? So you can rename it however and whenever you'd like. All right. Then there's the status of it. So this credit card is still valid through November of this year, but what if I don't want it available anymore to our users? Maybe we maxed it out, or we decided we just don't want that particular card to be used anymore. Well, you can't delete it because you need it for all your payment reports and auditing purposes. So instead, you make it inactive. Okay? When I click Save, AZ Visa doesn't show up here because by default, I'm looking simply at our active payment methods, right? So it just disappears. And anybody that was assigned to that payment method, now that I've deactivated it and made it inactive, again, it's no longer available to them either, okay? And let's say several months go by, 6 months go by, and now we want to start using that credit card again. Okay, well, I don't have to re-register it. I can simply come back to this very same screen, search for my inactive payment methods, find the one that I want, here it is, AZ Visa, and simply reactivate it. And there it is again. And whoever was previously assigned, voila, it's assigned to them again. You don't have to assign it again, unless you want to make changes, and then you do it, again, by clicking Add Remove Users. Okay? So you can very easily deactivate or reactivate any of your payment methods. Now let's talk about credit cards and their expiration dates, because I see here is one that's 11/18, that's clearly expired. AZTurboCourt at this point in time will not automatically expire your credit card. Now there's a number of reasons for that, but just suffice it to say that we will not automatically expire your credit card. So here's a credit card that because I put that date in there in the name to help me, I know that that's expired. And so when your credit card expires, and that obviously doesn't happen all that often, but it will happen, then you'll want to come in and simply manually expire it. Okay? Now, you might say, well, wait a minute, I had it reissued and everything's the same account number, same security number, just, it's now good through 2024. Well, that's fine, except that from the perspective of a payment processor, a payment provider, they consider it a brand new card. Okay? And so I can't simply rename this 2024 or something like that. To them, it's an expired card. Okay? So I would manually expire it, which I'm not going to do right now, but I would manually expire it. And then I would simply click here to register the newly issued card and just register the new card with AZTurboCourt. They'll make sure it's valid. They'll pass it back to AZTurboCourt, and now you've got your new credit card again. Okay? So that's managing your saved payment methods. Here they are, as well as users that are assigned to each one. But sometimes you want to look at the saved payment methods from the perspective of your user. For example, which payment methods did we give Karina access to? Right? Which payment methods did I give Zelig access to? This screen isn't necessarily the easiest way to do that, because I'd have to go through and look at every single one to see which users were assigned. That's not particularly efficient. So, as a financial administrator, I can also use the My Organization link. So I'm going to click on that right now. So we saw this when we were looking at the role of the company administrator. And remember, I said we've got these payment accounts, but I'm going to come back to that because that's really the role of the financial administrator. So here I am now as the financial administrator, and sure enough, I've got access to the payment account information for each of our users. And notice also, though, at the top of the screen, I do not have the Add User Account or Edit Org Info button, Organization Info buttons, because I am not a company administrator. The way I'm logged in, I'm just the financial administrator. So even though I can access the My Organization screen, I don't have the functionality of the company administrator. So again, what you see and what you can do really does depend on your login credentials. But because I'm a financial administrator, I can access the My Organization screen to see, for example, Karina. Oh, wow. Okay. Well, she's been given access to 37 payment accounts. She's out of control. We're going to have to change that. Here's Alan Test. He hasn't been given access to any. So to do that, I'll click Manage Assigned Payment Accounts. Now again, you're not going to have this crazy long list of payment methods. Let me just sort them by status, or at least I get the active ones at top. You might have a few, a half a dozen maybe, I don't know, but it won't be this long list. Okay, so here's Alan. I want to give him access to, it looks like some sort of a corporate bank account, and there's that AZ Visa account that's still good, and that's good enough. He can work with those too. So I check the ones that I want to give him access to, click Save. There he is, and now he's been given access to 2 accounts. Okay. Here's Alcatraz. He's got 4 accounts. Let me see which ones he's got access to. So my Civil MasterCard, 1020, this one, and that one. All right. So I don't want him to use this payment method anymore. So I simply uncheck it, leave him with these 3, click Save, and sure enough, there's Alcatraz, and he's got access to 3 payment accounts. Okay. So again, as the financial administrator, if you are setting up payment methods in advance, if you're pre-registering them with AZTurboCourt, whether it's a checking account, a savings account, credit cards, do that through AZTurboCourt by, from your financial screen. You would, save payment methods rather. Save payment methods, you'd click there to register. Once they're registered, you can add and remove the users, and then if you want to look at an individual user to see what they have access to, just click on the Manage Assigned Payment Accounts for that particular user. Okay? And so there you go. That is the functionality of the Financial Administrator. And so to wrap this up, what we looked at was the Company Administrator. First of all, how to create your firm's AZTurboCourt account. Then we looked at the Company Administrator and their ability to edit your company's organizational information, as well as optionally setting up a global inbox for notifications as to the status of filings, a global inbox as to the incoming e-service notifications for all your filers, then adding and managing your users. And then we have the Filing Administrator, who has access to any and all filings across the entire firm, anything that was produced and created through AZTurboCourt. And then when the Filing Administrator is looking at a filing whose status is e-filed, it means they're going to have access to the conform stamped copies of those documents, as well as the case documents for the electronic docket that the court makes available on that case. And the Financial Administrator, who has access to all of the financial details for all of those filings, who can request payment reports on a regular basis to be sent to them via email, and who can pre-register payment methods and assign who should have access to those particular payment methods for their AZTurboCourt filings. And so there you go. The very, very last thing I want to show you is if at any point in time you need technical support for anything pertaining to AZTurboCourt, let me show you the fastest and most direct way of getting technical support. At the top of the screen here, you'll see this Help button. There may be a few screens where it says Support, but again, it's one and the same. Help and Support, same thing. Click on that link, and you will see in our support area a link called Contact Us. Click on that, and what you're going to notice is that there is an area dedicated just for your AZTurboCourt Arizona court filings. And so you're going to have a direct phone number for technical assistance. You can also use this email address as well. Okay, so if you ever have technical support, this is definitely the fastest and most direct way of getting it. If you were to reach out to us, for example, to AZTurboCourt, we would simply redirect you to this contact information, because these really are the folks that handle tech support for AZTurboCourt. Now, if you do want to reach out to us, to AZTurboCourt, we would love to hear from you in terms of functionality you would like to see in the future, whether it's enhancements or additions to existing functionality, whether it's new functionality in any of those administrative roles. We absolutely would love to hear your ideas. We often use that to drive new development. And if you want to do that, at the bottom of the screen, you'll see this is how you can reach us. Just email us at customerservice@turbocourt.com. Let us know what sort of functionality, what either enhancements or new functionality you'd like to see. If we have any questions, we'll just follow up with you to get clarification. But feel free absolutely to reach out to us for those sorts of ideas. But for technical support, these are the folks you're going to want to contact, this phone number right there. All right, so thank you very much. And I mean that. Thank you for being an AZTurboCourt customer. We don't take your business for granted. We really do appreciate it. And do let us know how else we can make your e-filing and your administrative life better. So with that, I will bring this training webinar to a close. Keep in mind, tomorrow you'll receive an email with a link to the training recording. You're welcome to review it at any time. Feel free to share it with colleagues who didn't have a chance to view it, or perhaps somebody that you're going to be giving administrative access to, and they need to learn how to be the financial administrator or the filing administrator, then they can just jump ahead to that part of the recording and learn how to be in that role. It's a great way to train them. Okay, well, if there are no questions, we'll bring this to a close. Thanks once again, and I wish you a good rest of your day. Okay, take care.